Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering the second story in Superboy Issue 7, Dolls of Danger. This is the second appearance of Humpty Dumpty, a now popular villain in Superboy, as this is his second appearance in a row in a Superboy comic, and he will be appearing in the next two, as I've mentioned in the previous review. It's sort of hard for me to talk about Humpty Dumpty right now because where I am currently with Humpty Dumpty, I've fallen out of love with him as a villain. I don't find him as interesting as before because he's repetitive, and we start seeing the repetitive nature of him in this story. Though when I read this story, it wasn't so much it was repetitive, but the story itself. That is the problem. He's still an entertaining villain for Superboy and creates conflict for him that no one else seems to be doing. There is a certain level of challenge in facing Humpty Dumpty, and specifically how he keeps getting away with his fantastic little toys. As I said, he's kind of like the Toy Man. Though there is a little bit of the Riddler at this point, though the Riddler I don't think exists by now. Maybe he does, because we are close to the 1950s. Can't remember when the Riddler specifically showed up. But there is a bit of a Riddler in there, and that ends up being kind of the massive weakness. So Humpty Dumpty has escaped from prison and is using his doll collection to commit crimes. That is what Humpty Dumpty's whole spiel is. He uses some sort of toy from his collection, so he'll have a series of dolls, or in the next story it will be flags, and uses these to commit crimes to steal usually the same thing, just more valuable dolls or flags. And he is sort of stealing dolls here. He's also stealing other stuff. So much his crimes are not exactly the focus of the story. Another interesting thing is he always seems to have the same lair hideout. And by that I mean the same design, but it's not the same place. If it was the same place, Superboy could find him like that. But a lot of the story ends up being focused on what seems to be acting like a wild goose chase, even though it's not a wild goose chase. He leaves clues through one doll for Clark to find, well, Superboy to find, and he's pretty cocky that Superboy won't be able to make the connection so he can find Humpty Dumpty, which he does. And I think the problem with this is the whole investigation aspect of the story doesn't really involve much. It's Clark being made fun of because he has to carry around a doll. There is a really good conflict here that Superboy sometimes remembers, and that's that he's supposed to be in class a lot. So he has to hurry to class with a doll that he knows has some evidence for him, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Apparently, he doesn't just have a backpack he can stuff it in or a locker, so he's being made fun of as walking around with this doll as like a 16-year-old boy. Until he finally finds the message left for him in said doll, and it's not particularly all that complicated. He doesn't even need to use his superpowers. He uses his x-ray vision and just kind of talks to people and reads things. So not a very active way to use his powers, especially how much of the story this takes up. Unlike when he's facing Humpty Dumpty and Humpty Dumpty is doing something to him. I guess you can argue him flying is also a use of his powers because he has to fly from point A to point B to solve this crime. But he does eventually confront Humpty Dumpty. Well, confront's a strong word there, at his next crime. Mostly he's just screwing with him, which right now has not lost its luster. So he screws with Humpty Dumpty, especially when they finally get to his base, which Superboy, once again, just like in the last story, shows up at his lair, hidden, and uses his powers to freak Humpty Dumpty out by screwing with it. And though it's going to get old very quickly, it's still a bit fun to watch him use his super ventriloquism to make Humpty Dumpty think his dolls are coming to life and berating him. I mean, that's actually a pretty good climax to a story where he's been using dolls to freak other people out. But we need to start figuring out other things for Humpty Dumpty to accomplish that doesn't just end on a story where he finds his lair and screws with him. Okay, that is it from Superboy issue 7, Dolls of Danger. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video is up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman story in either Detective Comics or Batman. And please like if you do like this video, it really helps. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And does he have like a separate collection in each layer, or does he have like multiple copies of the same collection? How does he have these collections in different layers? Okay, have a great day.